Forum, a spontaneous and lively audience dialogue informing today's Catholics about their church, their world, and their lives. Now, here's your Forum host for today, Father Liam Kidney.
Thank you. Welcome to Forum, coming to you from Los Angeles. What's the hardest thing to stop once it's been set in motion? An angry mob? A rolling snowball? No. A wedding. Once the date is set for the wedding, you can never change it. And you can't get people to change their minds. People who work with individuals who are planning on getting married tell us that once people set the date, it's very difficult to get them to change their minds. A counselor could tell the couple, this is not good for you. You should not get married. And they'll still walk right up that aisle. They'll just walk right up that aisle, even though they know it's the wrong decision. After all, the invitations have been sent out. Grandmother is coming from Wistoki. We put our deposit on the reception. The church is reserved, so we have to go ahead. Is that right or wrong? Today, we're going to be looking at marriage preparation and marriage itself, and what we can do to really focus in on what makes a marriage a marriage. And to help us to look at that today, we have our panel. First of all, we have Father Dave Heney. Father Dave Heney is an associate pastor of St. Bede's Church in La Cunada. That's right here in California, and he's participated in many engaged encounters. He's also a member of our Heart of the Nation team for many years. Then we have Judy and Jerry Sullivan. Jerry and Judy Sullivan are from Thousand Oaks, California, and they've teamed with Father Heney for Engaged Encounter weekends. The Sullivans have been involved with Engaged Encounter for 8 years and have served as coordinators for the program in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. Judy is a homemaker, and Jerry is a sales representative. The Sullivans have 3 children, and we're delighted to have all of you with us today.
Thank you.
Before we started, we were talking with each other, and we came up with some questions. And this lady right here, she has a question that she wants to ask of all of you here on the panel today.
Yes, I was wondering, is falling in love the ultimate reason for getting married, or are there other considerations?
Well, I'd like to answer that for you, or at least give you my impression of what that might be. Falling in love sometimes is set up in your mind as if you hear bells and whistles and flowers and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's great. And we do need that in all of our lives, including in Judy's and mine 25 years later. But I think values and standards that you have, areas of compatibility, family, cultures, all of those things are really important to discuss and be aware of and are part of that whole love relationship.
But in talking about love, you know, the couple that walks in, let's say, to Father Heney's office, and they say, you know, I want to get married, you know, and you say to them, well, how long have you known each other? And they say, well, 3 weeks, you know? And you say, well, why do you want to get married? You say, well, we're in love. Now, is that enough, or is it like the values that you're talking about? How do you get to somebody and convince them that it's not just love, there's more than love involved?
You know, that happens sometimes. In my own office, people have come in and said that very kind of thing, and I sometimes surprise them by saying, you know, I'm not surprised that you're in love. You both look like 2 very good people. But there's no big trick, really, in a sense, to falling in love, and that kind of startles them. Because I say, if you put 2 good people in a room for a certain amount of time, they're naturally going to fall in love. We are designed to fall in love. Everything about our whole psyche is designed to fall in love. So you get 2 good people like yourself together for some amount of time, you're going to fall in love. But there's a difference between falling in love and marriage. Marriage involves an extra dimension of love, something beyond love, and that's commitment. The ability to say, this love that we have right now, I promise that I will have this love for you tomorrow, and the next week, and the next month, and the next year, and even when we're 55 and 65 and 75. Now, to make that kind of a commitment, to say that this love that we enjoy so much right now, that we'll have even years from now, in a future that we don't even know what's going to happen. We don't even know if we'll be healthy or not, or if we'll have a home, or if there'll be an earthquake or what. But to make that kind of a love, that's commitment, and that takes time.
Now, we live in a society, you've described a real ideal, kind of perfect love, maybe even a dreamy love. In the society we live in, as you well know, all three of you, I mean, there's maybe 50% of people getting married getting divorced. Why isn't this love alive for them? For these people who are getting divorced, what's happening? Judy.
Well, a lot of things.
Expert right there.
A lot of things can happen, of course, but I think one thing that we mentioned to couples, and that I firmly believe, is that people can love each other very deeply, but not be right for marriage, for that long-lasting commitment. We need interests, some interests in common. We don't, our personalities can be different. I think that's one thing good about our marriage, is that we have very different personalities, but we have a lot of the same goals. We have a lot of same values. We have to have some of those constants to keep us going, and then frankly, we have to work to keep our love going too. We need to be aware of it and give our love time, and not, if we're doing everything else and not spending any time to enrich our love, then pretty soon it just becomes less.
My name is Benjamin Jones' father. Have you found that fewer priests are counseling against premarital sex these days?
Are fewer priests counseling against premarital sex?
These days.
That's a pretty good question,
That's
now,
a really
let me
good
tell
question, you know, and it gets right to the core of a lot of difficulties that priests have in engaged couples that are coming. I would say that that hasn't been my experience, that I don't think priests are ignoring that issue. But I think that what's happening is it is becoming an issue in the counseling sessions. When an engaged couple comes to see a priest, that's not something that's swept under the rug or not dealt with, but it is something specifically talked about. What is your sexual life like? Especially, are you living together or not? And it is something that is simply not ignored, and it is brought to the fore and talked about, especially because sometimes it's not something that the couple has talked about. Very often the couple simply gets involved in activity that they really haven't thought about themselves. They just kind of get involved sexually with each other, maybe move in with each other, really not really investigating the reasons why. And one thing happens, I think, in a lot of rectories is that we're saying, now, what are the reasons why you are doing this? What is going on? What are you saying to each other by this activity? And just making it very conscious, knowing that the reasons are different for every single couple, that the reasons are very unique and particular to each couple.
So it would be true to say that in the church today, we still feel that premarital sex is immoral.
Yes.
And so whatever led up to the question, that somehow maybe somebody out there is saying that, not all priests are saying that.
But now, see, everyone coming into the rectory already knows that. I mean, that's something that everyone knows. That means like a big banner on front of the church, you know.
Premarital sex is immoral.
Right. But what I think is changing now is that there is an element, the time is taken to look at the particular situation of each couple. Each couple comes in with their own particular circumstance. Some reasons are better than others, some are worse than others. And we look at individual couples and pastorally deal with each of them individually.
I think there's another issue here that really needs to be addressed, and I think when we talk about morality and immorality, we talk about rules. The Catholic Church is great on being rule followers. That serves us well in some situations, but we need to know why. Why is it not in the best interest of the couple to be living together and to having intercourse before marriage? That's really what we're talking about here. The reason that we know clinically as well as morally, is that the relationship shuts down. And when the relationship shuts down, then there's no growth in the relationship. And unfortunately, that is what is going to be hurting the couple, and hurting them a lot.
I saw somebody here nodding their head in disagreement with you, all right?
Hi, my name is Vivian. I don't think that's true, at least in my personal opinion, because, for example, my present-day husband, unfortunately, well, we had premarital sex. Not at the moment, ever since we met, but after a few, some time together. And our relationship has grown every day more, and now we're in a situation that he's far away from me. We got married. We were only married for 5 months when we had a circumstance that separated us. And the only thing is, it's just grown more and more, and it's made us come closer together and love each other more. The fact that we had premarital sex had nothing to do with it. It has not broken our relationship. It's only enhanced it more because we've known each other.
We're going to be coming back with more questions like this and sharing the answers with you here on Forum. Don't go away. We're here on Form, coming to you from Los Angeles, and we're talking about preparation for marriage, which is that lifelong commitment. Before we took our break, we were talking about the idea of premarital sex and how it can affect the relationship of the couple. We've had two ideas. One is it's going to break down the relationship, and the other is that it doesn't do that, but it might enhance the relationship. Father Heney, how about the church? How do we view that?
First of all, I want to say I'm glad that her relationship is going well, and it does point out that all couples are different, that couples have very particular and unique circumstances, and that your situation worked out okay. There are a number of reasons why people sleep together or start out together, premaritally together before marriage. Some are relatively shallow, as you might know. They just get together because they don't even think about it. But I think Jerry might have been saying it a little bit harsh by saying that it breaks down relationships. It doesn't so much break it down or stop, but the church is saying that it could be more, that it could be more. It could enhance your relationship if that element doesn't exist before marriage.
I want to just say that I think shutdown was probably the wrong word, because that's kind of an absolute. But there is good clinical evidence that shows that there are areas that perhaps you avoid and you use intercourse as a way out of really getting to those issues. That's really what I think is perhaps a problem there.
See, I would tend to agree with you, because what happens is, in dealing with high school kids, that they jump right into bed with each other before they even talk to each other. And they're already involved in this intimacy, and they never get to talking to each other. And I think what we're saying, and what the church and society and psychologists are saying, is let's start talking and getting to know each other first before we end up in this other situation. Right. But we want to talk about engaged encounter, which is what you're involved in, all right? And it's an effort to get people ready for marriage. Is it true that when some people go on an engaged encounter, that after the weekend, they change their mind and decide not to get married?
I'd say what happens, if anything happens to a couple at all, they might postpone. I don't think we hear too much about actually cancellations, but couples might say, you know, we have discovered that there are whole areas of our life that we haven't really explored. You know, that maybe we have jumped too fast, have gone too far, and haven't done all the stuff in between. We haven't spent a lot of time talking and reflecting on deeper issues, and we need more time to do that. And so they postpone, which is really a good thing.
We know personally some people that that's happened to. As long as we've been giving these weekends, every now and then we'll meet someone that we're not aware of, and we'll meet them 2 or 3 years later, and they'll say that they, maybe 3 or 4 months after their engaged encounter, they realize that some of the problems or some of the areas that they discussed on the weekend, they could not overcome. So they decided maybe to postpone it for a while, and then they broke the engagement and later married someone else. So it does happen.
So this has got to be a pretty intense weekend.
It is.
I mean, if the kind of changes like that can happen.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Eileen, and I am a person that experienced the Engaged Encounter Weekend 4 years ago. And it was on that weekend that me and my fiance at that time learned that we're just not ready for marriage. And that was, you know, it is a devastating thing to come, you know, you got all the plans coming and everything's, you know, it was 6 weeks prior to the wedding. And you go through a denial, but it took a lot of, you know, prayer and talk, but it was that communication that on the weekend that we experienced to say, it's okay to postpone it. And originally that was the plan, to postpone it, and then it turned to cancel. You know, we realized that we just weren't meant for each other. But it was on that weekend, and I thank God, you know, for that experience to realize it's okay to postpone it. This is a big, big commitment. It's a lifetime thing. And it takes communication. And so often in our society, young singles are out there looking for that Prince Charming. You know, you hear that so often. Where's my Prince Charming going to take me off on that horse? And I felt that way at one time, and looking for the bells to chime and all this. And you do have that when you know, find someone that you really love. And I'm just thankful for Engaged Encounter and for the Catholic Church to, you know, give me that opportunity to really experience that and learn. And now I've recently got engaged to Steve over here, and we're gonna.
Okay, all right. Okay.
I'm gonna do it again.
Now I have a question for you. I have a question. Like, whatever happened in the weekend that got you to think so seriously about communication, whatever it was, what triggered the insight that would give you the courage to make the decision you made. What happened on this weekend? What's so unique?
Well, the neat thing on the weekend is you do a lot of personal sharing with your fiancé. You do journal writings to each other. And on that, you know, I was talking a lot about we as a couple, and he was very much of I. And so he was having a lot of problems with commitment within himself. And so a lot of times, you know, we had dated since we were senior sweethearts, and we dated for 7 years. And it was just one of those things that we would eventually be married. And so I think so often you get put into a role that, yes, we were happy. And I remember going to see our priest, and he said, oh, you guys are like peaches and cream. You guys just get along so great. And I thought, oh, this is just great. We're just a great couple, and we're going to live happily ever after. But a lot of it was that self-searching. And to be married, you have to really be competent in yourself, that you feel you can stand on yourself. Marriage is not going to solve any problems. And I think that my fiancé at that time wasn't able to realize that at the time. He thought...
Should we change roles here and kind of put her on the...
Sure, she's doing great. Thank you very much.
You know, one of the things that runs into my head as I'm listening here is an awful lot of couples that I try to send to preparation for marriage, you know, they really don't want to go. They don't want to go. They think they're ready. We've talked about it all. They don't want to go. Now, from what you're saying, this seems like a really unique program. How do we get people to want to go?
Well, I think that if our culture could just try to understand a little bit that it takes skills to be married. We don't really think that in a weekend that anyone's going to acquire all of those skills. But we think that it can be a window-opening experience, and to understand that there is some work to be done, and that love isn't just a feeling.
You know, I just want to say that that hasn't been my experience, Father, because in the 3 parishes that I've been in the 50 years that I've been a priest now, that,
excuse me?
Really, I have seen actually a change in the last 9 years that I've been a priest. That in the beginning, I agree with that. In the mid-70s or whatnot, it was difficult. People arrived and said, we've arrived at love, we just want the date and don't tell us anything. But a lot of these people have seen their older brothers and sisters divorce, or their parents divorce, or they simply just know that relationships take a lot of effort and a lot of work and a lot of time. And I find couples coming now saying, we are happy, basically saying, we are open to what you have to tell us, because we want our relationship to be the best. And we will listen to anyone, even you, Father, meaning me, when they come in and say it to me in my office, that we want our relationship to be the best, of good quality. We want to be happy for the rest of our life. We don't want to break up. We want it to be strong. And we are glad to go on this weekend. The Engaged Encounter weekend is very intense and a lot of work. And they like that.
Well, it's good to hear that people actually do want to work on their relationship and make it work out.
Sure.
I'm one of those people, and I'm afraid to get engaged. I'm in my 2nd serious relationship, and I'm very afraid of marriage. I have to admit. It's hard to admit that. And my parents and everything, and my background just doesn't support the idea of marriage. And I am so glad to hear that unengaged couples can go to an engagement encounter. That is terrific, because I really need some support. I really need help.
Well, the weekend is designed for people who are thinking about making a commitment and maybe haven't yet. But, you know, the Engaged Encounter speaks to that fear also, because a lot of the fear is, you know, the fear of the future. What will my life be like? Will I be happy? And the Engaged Encounter presents the idea that it is communication that is the glue in a relationship. Nobody knows what the future's like. No one knows what's coming down the road for a couple. But if a couple, whether they are the same personality or very different, if they know how to talk to one another, if they know how to share, if they know how to communicate, it doesn't matter what's coming down the line. Because no matter what's coming down the line, they can deal with it as a team. They can deal with it together.
With the Lord's help.
With the Lord's help.
The Lord's is absolutely necessary. I have a question, though, because I called a number yesterday, just yesterday, about engagement encounter. Okay. And the number was busy all 4 times I tried. I'm in the valley.
Good sign.
Okay, and my girlfriend contacted another person who gave me this number.
Yeah.
And since my girlfriend's at work, I have to call because I'm at home during the day. And the number's been busy 4 times. The church has got to advertise engagement encounter and really publicize it.
Well, maybe...
Well, in fact, maybe we're advertising too much.
we do have, all of our couples and priests, of course, are all volunteers. That number that you got was a home of a person that you were calling, and they may have been on the line with somebody else. Obviously, well, perhaps. But in any case, keep trying. We are interested in as many people as they can going on the weekend.
Do you find that the weekend is so intense that it scares people off? Like, would you have people leave before the weekend is over?
No.
or anything like that?
I explain the weekend completely to a couple before they go. And, you know, the format for the weekend is very simple. There's about 14 or so one-hour workshops. Each workshop is divided into 3 sections of 20 minutes each. For 20 minutes, a team like this will give a presentation on a topic of marriage. Priest usually introduces it, and then the married couple will share from their personal experience how they've lived out a topic. That's 20 minutes. That's mainly to set up the next part, which is the main part. And we'll hand each of the couples a piece of paper with some questions on it, and they separate from each other and write out their responses to those, whatever their thoughts or opinions are on those questions for 20 minutes. The last 20 minutes, the engaged couples get together as pairs, go off alone, be by themselves, and then they exchange their books and dialogue. So, and talk about what they've written. They each get to read each other's books and then read about them. When that's over, the whole group comes together in a big meeting room again, and the whole process starts over again with another presentation. Then the couples separate to write on questions and come together as couples to read each other's material and dialogue about it.
Are there set topics that are covered and so on like that?
It's kind of an orderly progression of topics.
Come up with an answer for that there in a
There are
sec.
set topics.
We're going to take a break here, and we're going to come back so we can talk about those set topics, all right? So we're going to talk about this and more here on Forum when we come back.
If you would like to be part of our Heart of the Nation studio audience, call us at 818-848-5800 or write to us at Heart of the Nation in care of Tickets, P.O. Box 7851, Burbank, California, 91510.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome back. We're here on Forum, coming to you from Los Angeles, and we're talking about preparation for marriage. Right before our break, we were talking about the engaged encounter and the process they used, but now we're on to the idea of what topics are actually covered. Like, is there a set number of topics or kind of topic that is covered in the actual presentation? Judy?
Yes, there's specific topics given on each weekend, and they're designed to cover all the important aspects that a couple should cover before they're married, or throughout their marriage, really. It's not just before they're married. Sully and I go over these same topics constantly throughout our lives, and that should be. But within that, there are topics like we begin with ourselves, getting to know ourselves, and then family, children, areas of communication between a couple. We specifically give guidelines on how to have a good argument, because we believe, you know, everyone's going to have an argument, so let's know how to have a good argument. That can be healthy. Things like this. But within that, couples also, when they have the discussion time, they have the flexibility to choose what they want to discuss within that format.
Judy, I don't want to get into an argument with you here, but we're coming to the close here.
Okay.
And I don't know how to have a good argument, you see, but I'm going to come and find out how to have a good argument. I want to thank you guys for being with us, all right? Really appreciate you sharing with us today, and with God's help, it's going to help some couples that are out there, and not just young couples. Older couples are welcome to come on this encounter as well.
They sure are.
And I want to thank all of the audience for being with us, and you at home. If you're thinking about getting married, don't just trust yourself. Don't just feel it's just the two of you. Maybe you can get some good guidance from people that know something about relationships, that some people that maybe know something about communication. Maybe you can get some good guidance from people that can help you to have a good argument. So don't be afraid. If you need some more information, give us a call here at Heart of the Nation, and we can give you some information about how to get a hold of Engaged Encounter. Thank you, and until I see you again, may the Lord hold you in the palm of his hand.